Reach a settlement quickly with your adversary while you are on the way with him, or your adversary will hand you over to the judge to the officer, and you will be thrown into prison. I assure you, you will never get out of there until you have paid the last penny. This is really talking about a judicial process. And sometimes we can, get into those situations where we are in court. Those things happen. And even in those situations, saying here, you got to be careful. Don't necessarily insist on your own rights. Don't try to get everything for yourself. Sometimes it's better just to settle. Because if you lose in court, you end up in prison. So it's better to settle with that person in some way, shape, or form. And that happens all the time. There's plea bargains go on and things like that to help people to not end up in prison. But there's a deeper meaning for us in everyday life. In everyday life, we come into situations where we disagree with somebody, where there's a difference of opinion, where maybe things get a little tense between people, or maybe things get very heated between you and somebody else, whether it's someone in your family, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a co-worker, maybe it's a classmate, whatever it may be. There's all kinds of different situations that we get into where there's a difference of opinion. And sometimes those differences can be very strong. And sometimes some of the things that are done can be hurtful. Sometimes we are hurt. Sometimes we're right and they're wrong. We have to be very careful in these situations because God's telling us here that we need to settle our differences quickly. It's not something that we should put off. We shouldn't drag things out, arguing back and forth, trying to get our own way, trying to convince the other person that they're wrong and that they should do something for us. Sometimes we are right, and we have the right to demand something from them, whether it's restitution or whatever kind of issue it may be. There may be something that we deserve out of that, especially in the world's eyes. But as a child of God, God is saying to us, don't let these things drag out. Maybe you ask for something from that person that they did you wrong, but they don't agree. They don't agree to it. It's saying settle quickly. Give up what may be your right. Give up what you think you may deserve and move on to have peace between you and that person. God tells us that if at all possible, be at peace with everyone. If at all possible, keep the peace. And we need to try to do that as children of God. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes we just can't settle. Sometimes the other person is just going to be so pushy or so angry that they're not going to want to settle, but we need to walk away. We need to let it go. We need to make sure that we don't keep things going any longer than they have to. Remember this basic principle. If you're at odds with somebody else, there's no way they're going to listen to you about Jesus. As children of God, our job on this earth is to represent Jesus Christ. What did Jesus do? Jesus gave up his right to life for us. He gave up his right to live for us. He gave up his right to have no pain for us. Jesus gave up a lot of rights for us that didn't care about him, that didn't want him. He hung on that cross, mocked by so many people. He gave up his right to be respected. We're supposed to represent Jesus Christ here on this earth. And that means at times we have to give up our rights. We have to settle things quickly. We don't always have to agree with the other person, but if at all possible, we need to make things right. And by making things right, there's always then the possibility that they'll listen to us about Jesus, or maybe they'll see something different in us because we've done that, in relation to their other dealings with people. God can use our humbleness when we humble ourselves before people, when we humble ourselves before God. I would encourage you to think about your life. Think about the situation that you're in. Think about any conflicts that you may be having right at this moment. Can you settle them in a way that brings peace between you and that person? If this video has in any way encouraged you, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, may God bless you.